Good evening and welcome to Cover One Buffalo Podcast. You are joining your very, very thankful partners in crime, Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn. Aaron, are you still alive?
Did I ever tell you Thanksgiving is my absolutely favorite holiday ever?
You liar.
I love this holiday. What are you talking about? This is my best one ever. 2019. Write it down.
Oh, it was amazing. There was so much pressure going into this game, and people almost tilted from so much disrespect piled up that I think people convinced themselves that we had such a massive chip on our shoulder that we were going to win and started to feel like we had it in hand, and just having that opening drive and so much there was just so stressful, and it's just amazing.
I have a lot of words right now.
Before we jump into everything, let's take care of some of our business points here. We have an awesome group in the chat already today, and today was amazing in the Cover One Slack channel, just having an incredible time being able to enjoy a game like this today. And we are presented by our sponsor, Uncle Jumbo's. Just being able to have a day like today, to be thankful for their partnership, to be able to enjoy an adult beverage, to toast an amazing performance like this. Just thankful for Uncle Jumbo's and all their partnership we've had and support through all the fun things we've been going through. So just really, really appreciate all that they've done and everybody in our Slack channel here. If you want to come have fun with us, come find us at cover1.net, give us a rating, give us a review, listen to what we have going on, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, be able to come and have fun with us here. But today was a good day. What are some overall thoughts, Aaron?
Yeah, no, this is the best Bills thing outside of them sneaking really into the playoffs. This is better than that in some ways because it was a dominant Bills performance tonight. This is probably the biggest regular season game in my adult life. I would have been happy. We talked about on the podcast. I would have been happy if they were in a close game here on national TV. And it was a dominant performance really outside of the first drive. Which was scripted plays. They came out and dominated a team that everybody said, hey, they got to beat a good team. And everyone nationally agreed that Dallas is better than their record indicates. Their DVOA was better. All the statistics showed that this is a good team. The Bills came out and handled them on national TV. And I am just ecstatic because I am going to be insufferable for the next 10 days or maybe even more. I don't care if they lose, but I'm going to be insufferable that I have a 9-win team at Thanksgiving time, late November, and December football matters.
Yeah, I mean, I went through a handful of things leading up to this game about that. I didn't want to exaggerate or be hyperbolic. I didn't even pick the Bills to win, but I said if they did, this is the kind of game that actually can be perception altering and can flip that. And you saw that, after the game, Rodney Harrison is apologizing on NBC. People like Jim Nantz and Tony Romo saying, hey, you got to take these guys seriously. This is real. These guys are talented. Having respected voices, not talking heads and some of the other people that yammer on, but people like that have respected voices like Nance and Romo saying the things that they did on the highest rated game. I don't think people realize the Thanksgiving marquee game, the 4:30 game, which is normally Dallas, is normally the number one rated regular season game every season. It was last year. Last year, it rated higher than the playoff games in the wild card weekend until you got to the divisional round. So, or half of the games, I think one of the games on the wild card weekend, the Thanksgiving game outrated the Bills-Jaguars playoff game. So when I say perception-wise, more eyeballs, more people there, I don't mean that it's actually strategically more important. Obviously, it's an NFC team. It's a 6-5 team. It's not strategically. It doesn't help us from that standpoint the way that beating Baltimore or beating New England would from a strategic standpoint. But from a perception standpoint, more people just watch Josh Allen play football than have ever watched him at any moment in his entire life. Having his best game of his life in the moment where the most people were watching matters. And that kind of thing, is something that you can't replace.
And just the microcosm of that, my phone was blowing up throughout this game of people I haven't talked to in a year. Messaging me, my Facebook messages of just dude, the Bills look good. What the heck? This is a good team. And so if I'm getting messages from people, I know that's happening to Bills fans all across the country today of people just know you as that annoying Bills fan for the last 15 years that has been saying your team's good. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, I'm sure they're good. That's cool.
Yeah, every time I watch, they look like crap.
Yeah, when I see it, not so good. Sorry. everyone's coming around and saying, wow, actually, you guys are pretty good. This is serious, and you're going to be a playoff team. Now it's going to be this next phase, and we have 10 days to savor this moment and this feeling. But now the expectations are going to start to get raised, and people are going to start saying, hey, this defense is really good. Can they hang with the Baltimore Ravens? Hey, can they go and beat the Patriots in a meaningful game? And you're going to start to have to live up to that expectation. And the Bills, I want to warn fans, the second that they slip up again, people are going to be quick to judge them back as the same old Bills. So enjoy it for the next 10 days. We've been thirsting for this kind of relevancy. Tim Graham discussed it with us here this week. Just savor this relevancy because it's going to be a nice long week of it, and people are going to start talking about this team seriously. So it's going to be fun, all these clips that we're going to get to watch all week and retweet it and just be the most insufferable fan base on the internet.
Yeah, and by all means, you guys see Aaron and I, we are petty men, and I'm okay with that. I own it. I embrace it. I wear it like a cloak. My retweet button is worn out. I was retweeting every single tweet that people saying, man, I was wrong about Josh Allen. Oh, holy crap. I couldn't believe how wrong I was about Josh Allen. I think I retweeted about 50 of them at one point. It just, bathe in it. Let it wash over you and just bask in the glory of a win like this on a day like this. And that we're going to have a lot of fun getting into the details today, but it's okay to have fun with this. It doesn't mean that we've arrived as a franchise or that, nothing else matters. I still want to win more games. I want success in the playoffs. I want further development. But the validation of what they've been building, what they're moving towards, just saying that in general, this is working is an exciting prospect. So let's get into a little bit of the details of the game. And I already touched on it to some extent, but to help reinforce my comment that I think Josh Allen had his best game ever, literally at any stage.
No qualifiers needed.
No qualifiers needed. His best game ever as a football player was today. He went 19 of 24, almost 80% completion percentage, 231 yards, 9.6 yards per attempt. That's like MVP season Aaron Rodgers stuff. With a touchdown, a quarterback rating of 120.7, another 43 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. Just constant heads up, intelligent play. I believe rattled off 13 consecutive completions at one point. Got back to no turnovers. I don't know that he had any genuinely turnover caliber plays. I even made a comment that when he was going into the end zone, he had the ball up high and tight. He wasn't doing his reach out for the pylon thing. So I think they reinforced that. Just an exceptionally solid, intelligent game the entire time, going through his reads, sideline to sideline. Having a guy like Romo on the broadcast really helped, bring that into perspective to point out some of those plays. I thought Josh Allen looked fantastic.
He looked unbelievable. You can say it. He played great. Josh Allen has had good games. He's had very good games against some bad teams. He played a great football game today, and it's okay to say, and I'm going to say it all week long. We deserve it. And I think that anybody that was on the fence about him and still kind of clinging to that, some of his bad games has to look at this game objectively and say, the Bills might have something long-term, and he's going to have some more ups and downs here. I think to finish the year there, he's going to play some better defenses and he's going to come into some challenges. All really good quarterbacks do. But I think you got to look at this game, and this might be the pivotal Josh Allen moment game where I think the entire fan base, you're crazy if you're not on him at this point and saying, wow, this kid could be good. 19 for 24. He could have easily had a 300-yard football game. They really were just milking the clock for the entire fourth quarter. And you saw that. I think they had 11 minutes possession in the fourth quarter. They were just milking the clock. He could have had more yardage. So if you're not on the Josh Allen train, as far as, I'm not saying you have to be a Josh Allen stan, but that this is a quarterback to build this team around for the future. We're not looking to bring in somebody else. If you're not on that train, man, after this performance, I don't know that you'll ever get on it, and I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of the decision making that he had, the processing he was going through, the guttiness. Talk about just the heads up instincts of that play on fourth down, kind of a fumbled snap, got some penetration early on. Not only picked up the ball, but picked up the ball and had the wherewithal to get himself moving forward and convert on a fourth down. That's a play that I don't know if it's smart decision making or whether that's just instincts and letting your athleticism take over, but that kind of play is just very Josh Allen-esque. And then you pivot to that with some of the smart decisions he had, the checkdowns that he had. It just was everything that you wanted to see. And that obviously you need sustained games like this. Elite quarterbacks do this kind of thing all the time. So we need to start seeing that on the regular, but seeing it in a big stage on the road against a marquee team, I think really, opened up some eyes today.
Yeah, I think that the fourth down, the quarterback sneak, the picking it up, whatever, I don't even know really still what happened on that play, but that play is a small glimpse into the real Josh Allen, I think, and that is a incredibly uber competitor. I don't think I've seen a lot of guys that have the type of competitive nature that Josh Allen has. And I think that is what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott saw in him. When they decided to make him the franchise guy. And you've talked about it quite a bit in our Slack channel that he comes off as this, oh, shucks, guys, like saying all the right things and just kind of being, by golly, he's not that guy. I think some of the stuff he probably says to the other team when he's making a play like that is not, oh, shucks, guys, thanks for letting me get the first down.
Yeah.
He's a competitor. He wore that shirt last week. I don't know anything about Post Malone, but a shirt about your haters and your enemies. This guy is uber competitive. He sees and hears every single thing that's said about him by everyone. He brushes it off and he puts it on the field and he uses it to fuel him. And I felt like that play at fourth down was, we don't swear a lot on this, but the only way to describe it was a grown-ass man play. And it was a competitor play, and I felt like that was just a small glimpse of who the real Josh Allen is. I feel like he'll run through anything to win, and very few guys, everybody's a competitor out there, but very few guys will do anything just to get that yard.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people know this about me. I lived in Cleveland for a long time after through college and my first real job. The exact text I got from my friend as that play had just wrapped up is, "Wow, Baker Mayfield doesn't make that play."
No. And a lot of guys don't. Maybe Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson might be the only other young guy that is that uber competitive, and you see that from him. It's a special trait.
Absolutely. Let's kind of move into the next phase here. I didn't think today was an especially impressive rushing game. I thought it was a check the box rushing game. I thought that they got the necessary balance they needed to keep Dallas respecting the fact that they could run. They had some nice play action. They went out wide. They had a couple RPOs. I thought that it was functional, and that's fine on a day like today. We didn't need it to be special. We didn't need it to take over the game. They converted some first downs there at the end when we were milking the clock, and during the game, they were keeping them honest by running a handful, but this was a Josh Allen passing chunk play type day. So I thought the running game was fine, but I didn't think it was amazing. I thought it just did what it needed to do.
I think you hit it on the head. It kept them honest. They did just a good enough job running the ball that they had to defend it. I like this game from Devin Singletary. 14 carries, 63 yards, 4.5 per. He had a few nice runs that kept the chains moving as well. The typical stuff we've seen from him, a couple chunk plays. That is, in my mind, if he continues on that path, he doesn't have to be this 100-yard rusher that we saw last week. If he's right around there and Josh Allen can have a fishing game throwing, and then that's how you win with an elite defense, in my opinion. And we'll have to probably lean on him a couple other games, but they didn't need it today. And I think that shows a lot of fans felt the path to winning was we have to just pound the rock with Devin Singletary, and he's the only real weapon on this team to get the ball moving. We don't trust Josh Allen. I think we've found reason today to trust Josh Allen a little bit when the opportunity arises for him to win the game and for it to be Josh's game. He can do that. We saw that today. So really nice balance, I think, all around. And I think you really nailed it. And that balance made the Cowboys stay honest and didn't let them over pursue any one aspect of the Bills offense. It was a very balanced day.
Yeah, and so moving into the receiving game, you bring up the other phase of Devin Singletary, not only 14 carries, but 4 targets, 3 catches that actually gave him 101 total yards from scrimmage on the day. So we had 101 total yards from Singletary. We had 110 yards from Cole Beasley, an outstanding day. Again, they utilized the attention that John Brown is now getting from defenses to kind of pull away from there. And I'll use this moment to bring it up. And Chip made the comment here in the chat as well. I thought this was by far Brian Daboll's best game as a play caller, best game as an offensive coordinator. And I'll go as far as I did a fair amount of research on him coming in, and I know kind of made some excuses for the quarterbacks that he had. I feel confidently this is the best game plan he's ever called as a
Yeah.
professional. Had them off balance all the time, had some nasty like jet sweep, stop action, reverse jet sweep motion from McKenzie, had the double reverse wide receiver pass from John Brown to Devin Singletary in the exact right moment where he saw that they were coming in with pressure. I read after the game that he was in Josh's ear as the play was cutting out, that if he reads zone to get out of the play, but if they're blitzing through man, make sure you call it, and just was constantly keeping them off balance. I thought it was outstanding by Daboll to put them into good positions, being aggressive, being creative. Again, we saw the distribution with 8 different guys getting a reception, spreading the love around all over the place, and just a really solid performance by the receivers as a whole when they really needed them to step up.
I think 3 things have really aligned very nicely for this offense in the last month for the Bills. One is Josh Allen having that horrible game at the Patriots and rebounding from that, being a more conservative approach to the game in the sense of limiting his mistakes and the turnovers. And we've heard him talk about it a number of times. I think that's number one. That's one of the biggest changes we've seen in this offense. If we can just eliminate the turnovers, our defense can keep us in games. There, you got that. Brian Daboll going up to the booth, I think, does do a lot. A lot of people have talked about it. It's him able to see. I have a lot of faith in Ken Dorsey being able to communicate with Josh Allen on the sidelines. I like that matchup. That's good. Daboll's been calling pretty good games. And I think the third thing that doesn't get talked about enough, that's showing the progress of this team being able to score more than 20 points. This offense, we talked about a lot. 9 new starters. It's halfway through their first year together, and I think you're starting to see these guys gel. I'm mostly seeing this around the offensive line. The offensive line has played very well for the last few weeks. You saw Josh in duress a couple of times, but you saw nice lanes open up for him to step up into, and he's getting better. So a lot of things lining up really nicely for Brian Daboll, I think, to feel more comfortable in his offense and in his play calling. I felt he might have felt limited in all these new players, Josh not playing well. I got to dial it back because I can't get too crazy. We just have to move the ball and not make mistakes. Now I think they're starting to say it's this play fearless idea because everyone's playing better together and they have a better sense of it. And I think that you're going to continue to see this offense improve. Like you said, John Brown getting more attention is going to open up some stuff for these other weapons they have. And they do have other weapons. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how teams cover them moving forward, because if Cole Beasley can put up numbers like he's been putting up, man, who do you guard?
Yeah. And it's really going to a couple of things you touched on with that shift we've seen, specifically since after the Browns game. They've gone more towards all the changes you've seen. So the combination, for any fans who aren't aware, coordinators can be in the quarterback's headset in their helmet up until 15 seconds on the play clock. So that not that changes from being on the sideline to the booth, but in the booth, he gets a different perspective on the field. He can see some last minute movements and changes by the defense shifting from different coverages, a blitz coming in, disguising coverages, zone versus man, and be in Josh's ear that whole time. So when we're running this kind of pseudo version of the no huddle, we're actually doing that because the quicker they get to the line of scrimmage, the longer time you might get a 10 to 15 second window. If we're out there at 30 or 25 seconds in formation, we can see the defense for 10 or 15 seconds where Daboll can continue to talk to him.
Yeah.
That's why we see them run this no huddle, that they're not running up and snapping the ball no huddle. They're running up, get in formation, read the defense, make your adjustments, make your audibles, listen to Daboll, and then get out of it. You're also seeing them stick with the same people on the field more often. The snap counts for Beasley, McKenzie, and Brown and Dawson Knox are going to be really, really high. Same with Singletary versus Gore. You're going to have some of the other tight ends mix in and get some snaps. You had Robert Foster mix in, but they're sticking with that single back, 1 tight end, 3 receiver set and go and making the run of that. And obviously, I don't see any reason to change. I don't see any reason that we wouldn't continue with that with Daboll in the booth. Daboll clearly keeping his mustache, which is very important.
Oh, very important.
Keeping the single set back here. It's just really exciting to see that. The last part of the offense here was the offensive line. There were 4 sacks today. I think that from my recollection, I think all 4 of them were off blitzes where they brought more than we could protect. So not that that's not on the offensive line, that still matters, and you can pick up blitzes if you call them right. But I don't think that people were just getting blatantly beat. I think that the Cowboys were being really aggressive and brought a lot of guys on multiple plays. So I thought that that was reasonable. And again, they did a solid job running the ball. In general, kept Josh clean and available here. So I thought the offensive line handled themselves well. And at minimum, we didn't let a guy like Quinn or DeMarcus Lawrence take over the game.
Yeah, I mean, I will say at least one of the sacks was on Josh. I
Yeah.
saw that blitz coming from a mile away. I don't know what he saw, but nobody picked it up. So I'm guessing he didn't see it and changed the protection. Mitch Morse didn't see it, changed the protection. So that I'm putting that one on Josh. Probably a coverage sack in there too. So I thought the offensive line played fantastic. When you're running backs getting 4.5 yards a carry and your quarterback's throwing the way he is, your offensive line's having a good game. And I think both sides of the ball, and we'll get into it. They dominated at the line of scrimmage today. And I think you saw that throughout the rest of the stats. I think when you dominate that way at the line of scrimmage, you see the type of performance we saw today from the Bills.
Well, yeah, and just kind of going through here, 2 of their sacks were from their nickelback, so obviously that's coming down to blitz.
Yep.
And then the other one that was shared the one play, I think the defensive tackle just beat his guy. That Covington sack, I think, was one of the guards getting beat pretty good on that one. But
one thing I'll say though lately about Josh Allen is he's still trying to get out of some of these sacks, but he's doing a better job of knowing when that play's dead and taking a sack. Like he could probably keep fighting some of these smaller guys and stuff like that, but he's doing a good job of not. We hated it last year, turning his back to the defense and running backwards 10 yards and taking a 15-yard sack instead of a 5-yard sack. So the kudos to him. The sacks, they were pretty big, but they didn't stall the offense at all today.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're getting ready, before we pivot over here, want to take a minute to talk about Uncle Jumbo's, our presenting sponsor. Today is a perfect day to enjoy some of their American vodka, some of the Berry Good, some of the Country Lemon, the Bluesberry Lemonade, just an awesome amount there. Anytime you are enjoying Uncle Jumbo's, we want you to take some time to enjoy that responsibly. And the good way to reinforce that, we like to talk about the Uncle Jumbo's responsible play of the game. And we actually debated this a bit before the show. I think there's quite a few different options that are going to there. So, Aaron, I'll let you kind of kick that off of where you had your first idea for the responsible play.
Yeah, I'm not sure yours is responsible, but we can talk about that when we get to you. No, there was a couple that I was kind of kicking around. One seems probably pretty insignificant, but it's something that really annoys me is Isaiah McKenzie caught a pass, was on the ground. Nobody touched him. He got up and ran for a few more yards. You see a lot of the times a guy catches a pass. Nobody touches him. He just kind of spikes the ball and nobody does anything about it. They don't call it a live ball. It's just they say the defender was down and he gave himself up. He got up and he got another 3-4 yards. Ultimately, I don't know what type of impact that play had on the game as a whole, but it was a heads up play and you like to see it. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Isaiah McKenzie as he increases his role within this offense. And that's another, hey, this guy's understands he's a heads-up player. I think the one I'm going to go with was one that Tony Romo pointed out. It was at the end of the half, I believe, when they were going down, driving on the Bills for really only the second time in that game. And Sean McDermott, there wasn't a lot of time left. There was not a lot of time on the play clock, and I think people were confused as to why the Bills called a timeout. But if you looked at the play, Dallas had everybody spread out, including Ezekiel Elliott. Sean McDermott got into a formation on defense that looked like they were bringing the house. They were not. They were going to just leave their cornerbacks and defensive backs out on an island and bring the house. And Dak panicked, and he brought Ezekiel Elliott back in. And Tony Romo pointed this out as this was a really smart play by Sean McDermott because he just got a free look at what they're going to do when he presents this look. And he took a timeout and ate that timeout and allowed them to come back out, and then he got into zone. And I think Tony Romo wasn't in the booth. A lot of fans don't even see that. They're like, why is Sean McDermott taking the timeout? It was going to run out. But Sean McDermott held that in his back pocket. And I'll have to look at the All-22, but I'm pretty sure I saw that exact formation present itself again later in the game a couple times. And on a week where it's short week and preparing on a short week, there's only a few plays that these guys are able to put in consideration of how normal game week would go. So that's a big advantage. And just one of those intricate chess moves where Sean McDermott's a whole step ahead of Jason Garrett. And I think you'll see that by Jason Garrett getting fired tomorrow, but it was just a microcosm of that. So it was a very responsible play. You had the timeouts to waste and you got yourself a free look at what they're going to do when you present a look.
I thought that's a great choice, and I think that you even saw that again, that Romo and Nance were commenting on it with his smart usage of the challenge later on, where
Yeah.
you're going to get beyond 2 minutes. You're the leading team. You're not going to need the timeouts. It was a smart usage there. I just love kind of the in-depth view that they give when they're the announcers on a game, talking
Yes.
about that kind of decision making. It's just so much fun, and it tells you what we get stuck with when we're constantly having the third and fourth string announcers in so many games. So it's there. I'm gonna go with one that was a really conservative, careful, smart play when Brian Dable called the double reverse wide
The
receiver
QB1.
pass. Um, where John Brown's got a perfect quarterback rating. So I just, I'm half joking in the sense that that's not conservative and is a little crazy there. But what I do want to say is I think that the timing of that you had just gotten a turnover, you're trying to take a deep shot. You're not necessarily just going to take a deep shot in the stereotypical sense. I like the idea that he took his chance there, where we were trying to get back into it. We were trying to be able to really take a substantial lead in a serious moment there, where we had finally gotten back and tied it. The game was looking a little bit rough earlier. You just got back-to-back turnovers. We missed the field goal on the previous one. Let's not let this one get away from us here. And you dial something like that up to be aggressive in that moment. It was on a first down. You just got that tough, gutsy, competitive conversion from Josh Allen, so people are kind of excited about what's going on. I just thought that it was really exciting to see them try that, and I thought it was smart to do it in that moment. So my Uncle Jumbo's responsible play is going to be Brian Dable's razzle-dazzle call, even if that's not the stereotypical use of it. I think that it really showed a smart time to take an aggressive shot like that.
It was, and it was one of those damn plays that the Patriots have been doing for the last 10, 15 years that is so freaking annoying when you see them do it and have success in it. But when we do it, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
And I
it's the
love every
greatest.
minute. They're geniuses, and it worked every minute. But no, you in a game like this too, we saw it early on where they went for it on fourth down inside their own 20. This was a desperate football team that was trying to create plays, trying to keep it alive. In a game like that, you have to be willing to match, I think, some of that intensity and take risks and make gambles to try to make big plays and put them away on the road in a big game. And we saw that Brian Dable's not scared to do that. And now that's on film. And when they're running that jet sweep stuff, people have to be careful because you don't want to be the team that gets screwed by that again after it's been on film. So they're putting things on film, and that play in itself has been building up for weeks. That's part of the package that you've seen them running, that people get frustrated with the jet sweeps and stuff. So it's great time to pull it out and use it, and really a game-changing play. So I think it's pretty responsible in a drunk kind of way.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Switching gears and getting into here, this is weird to say, looking at the box score and our lovely box score scouts, people who will go back and look at this. Luckily, we don't have to worry about that today since everyone got to watch the game.
Yeah.
But when you look at a game where a team has 32 first downs, 323 passing yards, and 103 rushing yards, it's kind of hard for me to say that the Bills defense locked them down. They gave up that opening scoring drive. And any Bills fan who's listening, if you're honest with yourselves, every single one of us had a little bit of that, oh man, don't let this be that kind of game. They went down the field pretty smoothly, pretty easily. That opening drive was 9 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown. A lot of it looked way too easy. And every one of us had that pit in our stomach of, oh man, don't do this.
Yeah, not
Don't
tonight.
just don't do this. And then from then on, they did not score again the rest of the game until garbage time. I'm not even going to count that late garbage score that I was high-fiving with my family as they scored it because I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
They then went 8 straight drives of no scoring, and you just held the number one offense in the NFL with one meaningful score in the entire game. And just to have that kind of domination is exciting. We'll get into some of the specifics of who did that, but just the overall performance of holding this talented of a defense, under wraps, I thought was fantastic. Being able to kind of look at where that where that starts at is
All right, I'm back. I had to mute my mic. My dog is going nuts outside of the window.
he's pumped about the Bills game. He's
letting everyone in the neighborhood know. So no, yeah, they dominated them in outside of scripted plays, because we saw it again at the start of the third quarter. They were driving before the Bills stalled that drive. Outside of the scripted plays, and then at the end of the game, at the end when they were kind of going soft coverage and letting them pick up some yards, they owned the Dallas offense. And I think that the yardage, like you said, the box score scouts are going to see that and say, well, they give a bunch of yards. It's probably going to impact their DVOA. I don't really care. Yeah. They were the traditional bend but don't break defense all day long. They didn't give up any huge plays. They gave up a few of the 20-yarders that we count in the toxic differential, but nothing major that blew the top off this defense. They kept everything in front of them. It was a phenomenal defensive performance. And guys, those first drives are super frustrating, and like you said, it puts that pit in your stomach, especially after you just ate a bunch of pie on a day like today. But those scripted drives, those guys work very hard at that to script the perfect play to get a good start, so that they attacked the Bills defense where they thought that they had a spot to attack them, and that's going to happen. I think Bills fans should feel very good about how Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott are working together. Sean McDermott was mic'd up last week. And you don't get a lot out of those snippets of the mic'd up snippets, but you did get on one of the sacks that somebody had, I forget who it had, but he said into the mic, he said, "Great call, Leslie." I think that they are in sync in how they're calling this defense, and they're making adjustments, and you're seeing that outside of the scripted plays. Teams aren't moving the ball on them very well outside of scripted stuff.
Yeah, a lot of fans have asked that because they've seen pictures of McDermott on the sideline with a call sheet, and both him and Frazier have had call sheets since about the fourth or fifth game of the year. And that doesn't mean that McDermott's taken that. I think McDermott just wanted to be a little more involved in the play calling to understand what he was seeing, where those things were coming from. But yeah, it just was incredible. And I think it starts up front. And the performance that we saw today from Ed Oliver was dominant. If this is the idea of what we're going to have, and I think it is when you're talking about the fact that he did this against Travis Frederick and Zach Martin, and some of the easy gimmies were against Connor Williams, who obviously looked dinged up. But if this is what we have to look forward to with Ed Oliver, and I know a lot of people, tried to calm people down that, hey, defensive tackle, take some time to learn the technique and get off of your blocks. And I think the second half of the season is going to be better than the first half. This is now 3 straight games with a sack for Ed Oliver. He had 2 of them today. One of them was a strip sack fumble, another tackle for a loss, and a pass knockdown, and another quarterback hit. This was unbelievably exciting to think about what he might be able to offer us in the future.
I'm going to chalk up Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, Leslie Frazier, this entire staff as geniuses for how they've handled Ed Oliver's first season. I think people overblew he's a bust, and because he got benched, he's no good. He needs to be an impact. He's not showing up on the box score. I think all of that was well overblown. We saw him doing a lot of right things, but just he hadn't quite grasped the NFL game yet. And I think they pulled him back. They created a little adversity for him. Not everybody can get pulled back and no longer be a starter when you're that type of pick. You've always been the man. Everywhere you are, you've been the guy. Leslie Frazier talked about it this week that when they pulled him back, he handled it really well. He just wants to learn. And I think that they kind of tested him with some of that adversity, and then that it's paid off. So I'm going to give them the benefit of that, that they're the greatest talent handlers in the world. But it's really reaping the work that they've done with him, because over the last month, the defensive line, I think, has been the catalyst for the team's success in general. And the problems that they had on defense are getting fixed because of the defensive line. And you're seeing it across the board, but I think Ed Oliver is the best one to look at because he's going to be here for a long time. And you look at both Josh Allen and Ed Oliver having their best days. That's super exciting for Bills fans to have their best days on national TV as a coming out party that, hey, these guys are going to be here possibly for the next 10, 15 years. Holy cow, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really incredible. And I know coming into this game, the last two games coming in, we had 11 sacks, but it was against Miami, which, has their offensive line. And then it was against Denver, but it was against Brandon Allen. And does that really count? And that, coming into there, 4 sacks against, an MVP caliber season Dak Prescott and the largest investment offensive line in NFL history with the Cowboys. 4 sacks there matters. And they came from other sources. You had a split sack between Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips. You had another one from Trent Murphy. Just having that kind of performance. And I will take this moment here for the people who have been going nuts about Star Lotulelei and we need to release him. This is now 3 straight games where it was a sack, and today he had an interception and a blocked fumble. So I am totally fine with Star Lotulelei isn't earning his contract. He's not worth the huge money we're paying him. Okay, I can listen to that. There's a huge gap between Star Lotulelei is not a great value and we need to release Star Lotulelei. He is a valuable player that is an important part of this defense, and I don't want to see anything change on this defense right now with the guys that we have. And I just thought that the defensive line as a whole played great.
You hear it again in the mic'd up. You don't get a lot of stuff, but we heard Jordan Phillips screaming, "Star!" You heard Jerry Hughes last week. My guy Star's got to get a sack. My Star's got to get in that. That matters. He's been a good part of this defense for the last month. I thought all the stuff about Star was vastly overrated. He was the scapegoat after Zay Jones left. That's fine. People want to say, he's the problem with the run game, and he wasn't doing his job on every single play, but he wasn't the only problem in the run game. It's a 1 of 11 thing. And I think all of it was vastly overblown. So I'm happy for Star to get things that show up on the stat sheets so that we can throw that back in people's faces a little bit. But no, he's not going anywhere. And the way Sean McDermott likes leadership and the way Brandon Beane likes that, I won't be surprised if he doesn't decide, hey, I've had enough and I'm going to retire moving forward. If he wants to continue to play, I'm not shocked if they bring him back. Again, depending how the roster shakes out, you're going to have Harrison Phillips coming back. Everybody said, just get him back. It's going to take a little bit of time. So there's a chance that Star Lotulelei is still on this team for another year if he wants to be, because just the leadership alone and what he means to that locker room.
Yeah, and I will get into this in the offseason, but from a financial standpoint, there's actually very little savings. He counts about $10 million on the cap. 7.8 of that is a dead cap hit. So cutting Star Lotulelei to pay for Jordan Phillips, which I hear every other day on Twitter, isn't real.
It's not a thing.
The cap savings of cutting Star Lotulelei is $2.3 million. That ain't going to cut it to sign Jordan Phillips. So signing Jordan Phillips is a totally separate function. So next year, if Star Lotulelei wants to continue to play, which I believe he will, he's going to be on this team because there's no financial benefit to releasing him. So in 2021, there's a possibility that's a discussion where then you flip it.
He might be done by then anyway.
Yeah, I could see him basically. I think a lot of people saw this as really a 3-year, $33 million deal when he signed it. I think he goes through that. I think he's here next year. I think he plays. And then it's up to him and McDermott to talk. Do you want him back? So let's move into the next layer here. I thought it was a good game for Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. I thought they did their job consistently, filling the gaps, chasing guys down. I don't know that I saw as many flash plays as we had seen the previous couple weeks. From there, I thought just not anything negative, but maybe some of the other guys flashed a little bit more along the defensive line. And even I remember some bigger hits from Taron Johnson. Micah Hyde was all over the field. So, I don't think there was anything negative, but I did think that they did a nice job in the linebacking core. And it was another solid game, blitzing, bringing some pressure, getting into there to hit the quarterback a couple times, some pass defenses. But, I don't know that I remember a ton of flash plays for either Milano and Edmonds, which is a little bit rare for the run they've been on.
Yeah, no, they've been on a good run. I think they did a good job. They had that one drive where tackling was just poor across the board for everybody, not just the middle linebackers, or the linebackers. That was probably the drive that stood out to me as bad. The play I think that stood out to me was it was a 4th down. They were going for it. It was in their red zone, and it was a little swing pass to Elliott, and it was a terrible pass. It was a pass that if Josh Allen made, Twitter would be killing him for all the things that this is exactly what we saw from him in college. Dak Prescott throws it in the ground. But even if it's Zeke Elliott catches that, Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds are right there with a perfect angle. They're not giving up that touchdown, and that just shows the athleticism that they present. And even when they're not making the flash plays, they're still showing that they're pretty much always going to be in their spots and taking good angles and things like that. So I don't need them to always be making flash plays. I just don't want to look at those two as the reason that the defense is giving up a lot of points or giving up big drives. And they didn't do that today. And that's totally acceptable and good in my book. We saw them get their hands on a couple in the pass lanes. Milano specifically got tipped up a couple balls, but they didn't really attack that section of the when they were in zone. They weren't really attacking in the middle where Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds were. They were kind of working away from them in the passing game anyway.
Yeah, and I thought it was really, really solid. And, going into the next layer here, I thought the secondary did a great job. You're talking about one of the most dangerous receiving corps in the NFL. You have Amari Cooper, You have Michael Gallup, you have Randall Cobb, held the other guy that caught a touchdown that I don't think I'd ever even heard of.
Never heard of him.
Ventel Bryant. I wasn't prepared with a deep scouting report on Ventel Bryant.
Nope.
But just the weapon out of the backfield, they usually use Tony Pollard a lot. The fact that they kept everybody in check for the most part, other than a couple, Michael Gallup had an amazing catch down the sideline that was really impressive. But I thought the rotation between Kevin Johnson and getting him in there with Levi Wallace, I thought was still really good. Taron Johnson had a couple great plays. I'm really glad it doesn't look like that there was a serious injury for Amari Cooper that looked ugly for a second. That was a clean hit, a very clean, good football hit by Taron Johnson, but was scary. I was glad that it didn't turn out worse than what it was. And then another great game, you saw Jordan Poyer up there like a linebacker most of the game. He was in the box constantly. And then Micah Hyde was everywhere, just back and forth all over the place. And I think that our secondary, the Patriots rightfully get talked about as the best secondary in the NFL. I think we're right there with them. I think we're right in that caliber. I'm not going to try to argue we're better because they're exceptional. But I think we're right there in that caliber of one of the best secondaries in the NFL. And with that team in today's modern NFL and how everyone likes to pass the ball, I think that's going to keep us in every single game and give us a shot that, when we get into the playoffs here, I don't think that we're just some one and done pushover. I don't think anybody's going to want to play the secondary.
Yeah, no. And a comparison to New England's going to be tough because they primarily play man defense, and that's a totally different thing. And I think fans get frustrated. I saw a little bit of it on Twitter early on when Amari Cooper was getting catches, but you got to understand what the Bills defense is all about is they're okay with some of that yardage building up and plays happening in front of them. They keep everything in front of them. They're good tackling players. They make plays on the ball. I saw multiple plays by both Kevin Johnson and Levi Wallace had a sneaky good game, bounce back game here today in front of a national crowd. He made a couple nice plays on the ball, but you're getting guys like that. It's crazy to think that the Bills have a defensive backfield that is 4 cornerbacks deep, because Taron Johnson, I think, is one of the better slot receivers I've seen in a long time. They're 4 cornerbacks deep and have 2 really good safeties. Even when Micah Hyde came out for a play, I think it was maybe out for a play or two. Yeah. You bring in Kurt Coleman, who has seen a ton of football and a ton of experience. He might not be the Kurt Coleman he used to be, but I felt pretty good when they flashed the camera on him and said, okay, Micah Hyde's out, but we're bringing in a guy that has a ton of experience. This game's not too big for him. This moment's not too big for him. He's not going to be the reason. Now they're going to go pick on Kurt Coleman as an issue. So this secondary is deep. They're good tacklers. They're good in fundamentals. I don't feel like they're going to give up a lot of big plays. And that is super reassuring to me after years of terrible secondaries where there's always a weak link. There's really, I feel, not a lot of weak link. Maybe you can get a good game against, Levi Wallace. And I think some of that even was overblown. When you have Trey White playing the way that he's played this year, it's hard to be the other guy. You're going to get picked on. They got to throw it somewhere. So they've all been playing really good football, and they don't get the credit they deserve. And I'm not sure. It's hard to evaluate defensive backs in the broadcast view. And I'm still not sure they're going to get the credit that they deserve, even after this game on national TV, because people are just going to look at the box score and say, hey, Dak threw for this many yards. Amari got some yards. They're just going to see the yardage, and they're not going to see what the Bills players did. And I don't know if they'll ever get the credit that they deserve with the accolades, Pro Bowls and All Pros and stuff like that. But I think at least Trey, Poyer, and Hyde all deserve to be in the Pro Bowl conversation. And I think at least Trey, and there's a case to be made for both Hyde and Poyer to be in that All-Pro conversation.
Absolutely. I think that they deserve that attention and should get that. And I thought that this is the kind of game that can give them that kind of attention. So I'm glad that that's there. There's a conversation going on in the chat. Sean and Joe are talking about I'm normally very even keeled with the referees. I don't normally, I'm like, yeah,
Me
they kind of
too.
go both ways. I, I thought it was very, very difficult not to feel like there was a concerted effort of the refs to call every ticky-tack thing for the Cowboys. And then we had some blatant things that got called against the Cowboys in our favor, but they were obvious blatant things that anyone would have called
Right.
any of the ticky-tack ones. And the frustrating stuff was the exact same thing. We get a weird, you know, roughing the unnecessary roughness call where Jerry Hughes is jumping on to tackle Dak Prescott while he's still off the ground, going to the ground. He hadn't been tackled yet, and he was gang tackling him. Josh Allen gets 2 hits after he slid. We get nothing. We get 2 ticky-tack illegal contact calls for nothing. We see the exact same thing happen as Robert Foster's going down the
I
field
know.
for a deep shot. We get nothing. It just, if you're going to call it ticky tack, call it both ways. And it was really, really frustrating. I know Sean was bringing up the hands of the face, the one for Jordan Phillips. From everything that I saw, it wasn't as bad as what the replay showed because they didn't give a replay of it. There was video that it was actually hands of the face on the guard
Yeah.
before he got to Dak Prescott. So they didn't ever show a good view of it, but he did get a big face full of Zach Martin's face mask while it was there. But still, it just added in the moment. It seemed horrible, and it just
Jerry Hughes's
added to that
penalty
momentum. It's
should not
terrible.
have been called a
Dak
penalty.
Prescott wasn't on the ground.
He wasn't on the ground, at least when Jerry was making the decision to begin his movement to tackle the runner. That was a bad call, especially when earlier in the game you had Josh getting hit blatantly when he was on the ground, and the player was not even making the motion. I'm with you. I do not even talk about the refs
Yeah.
really. I usually dislike it when I see a lot of people just getting on the refs right out of the gate. Shaq Lawson, I feel like, could have had 2-3 sacks in this game. He was being held constantly. There was holding going on all over this game. I even tweeted it out in the second half that the Bills had to play clean. They're probably getting worn out by playing against both the Dallas Cowboys and the refs because it really was bad today. But they were able to overcome it, so nobody's going to talk about it. Won't get that. I'm sure that the Bills will send their long list of things they didn't like about the officiating. But the thing about it is it's rampant throughout the NFL. There's bad officiating all over the place. We just got a good taste of it today, and it doesn't taste good when it's one-sided on you like that.
Yeah. Moving into the last phase of the game, special teams was similar to what we've seen the last couple of weeks, was almost good. There were some really, really good pieces of that. Every kickoff went out of the back of the end zone. We had no kick returns. Every punt that we had, they weren't able to punt. The 2 first punts that Corey Bojorquez had were amazing. He averaged 49 yards a punt, 1 out of bounds at the 5, 1 out of bounds at the 10. It's literally as good as you can ask from that standpoint. He had a kind of a poor punt later on that skewed his average a little bit. Still went out of bounds, no return. But it was only 33 yards, and it could have used a little bit more length there. But that was after the game was well in hand. While it was critical and trying to switch fields and really getting into it, had a really strong game. But again, some concerns from Stephen Hauschka, and that I think we were kind of reassured there for a moment. Had a really poor game that cost us a good chance at the game against Cleveland. Bounced back by making 11 straight kicks. He went 7 for 7 in the one game with 4 field goals, 3 extra points, then 2 field goals, 2 extra points last week. Made his opening extra point here today. He had 12 kicks in a row, and then he misses the 50-yarder. It wasn't a terrible miss. I'm on Twitter. I'm explaining to people that, hey, he had made 12 in a row. 50-yarder is a tough kick. It's not the end of the world. We got to be doing that. While I'm in the middle of doing that, the Bills scored their touchdown, and he misses the extra point. And at that point, I'm out. I can't defend him. I hope people saw the other side of the field. Brett Maher, missed 2 kicks. Anybody who's watching the Falcons game tonight, they've missed 3 kicks. The Patriots are on their 4th kicker of the year and had an emergency appendectomy last night. There are other kicker problems around the NFL. I think there's a gap between what Hauschka's doing isn't good enough, and we need to cut him immediately, but it isn't good enough.
I emotionally in the moment tweeted out that I wanted Hauschka to stay in Dallas. I don't mean it. It was an emotional response in the moment. I do agree with you that there's a lot of kicking problems. For Bills fans, it's going to be tough because the Bills paid him.
Yeah.
And they have put an investment into him, and you expect him to pretty much not ever be a problem. He's been a problem a couple times now here this year. I think it's all correctable. I don't agree with my own tweet to leave him in Dallas. I don't think there's a better opportunity out there from somebody else that's on the street or anything like that. Stephen Hauschka is a good NFL kicker throughout his career. A lot of this stuff is mental. I listened to Pat McAfee's podcast a few times, and one time he talked about how hard it is for these guys, punters and kickers. It's a totally different mental component than any other NFL position or player deals with, where they go out and they miss a kick and they can sit there for 15 to 30 minutes. Just nobody's talking to them. They're just sitting there thinking about their missed kick, and they get one more chance maybe to go out and prove that they can keep their job in this league. And then there's a lot of pressure. It's a difficult mental position to be in when you start missing kicks and you start forcing things. So it's a lot on Hauschka. Out of all the things in this game, that's probably the most frustrating one. It didn't end up impacting the game too much, but you hate to see points getting left out on the field. And I don't feel very good if the Bills are within a field goal of the Ravens or the Patriots here. You need a kicker that you can rely on to kick a game-winning kick, and I don't feel like that from Hauschka right now. And whatever he's got to do to fix it, yoga, meditation, drugs, I really don't care at this point. He's got to get it fixed, and I need him to be that reliable guy. But like you said, he just went through a nice streak of recapturing that reliability. Don't know what happened today. I'm sure he's going to get pressed on it in the media. We'll find out. And hopefully he can regain another nice stretch here to finish off the year of that reliability, because I don't want to talk about kickers being the problem going forward.
Yeah, no, we can't afford that right now. And it just, again, I thought special teams was a net positive today. They overall did things well. We still haven't seen a complete game on that side of the field. And I certainly would prefer to be able to start seeing that kind of thing. But overall, I thought that it didn't take away from what we had, and was concerned about that for the moment.
I will say the one thing that I was a little bit frustrated with, and we talked about it a little bit on Slack, that it was kind of there. Josh Allen's 30-yard air yard pass, or Josh Allen has that in a 300-yard game. That was their thing this week, was their special teams. Special teams is weak. It's the Achilles heel of the team. I was a little disappointed we didn't take more advantage of their poor special teams performance up to this year. And I'm sure they worked on it, but it was a short week. They didn't have a lot of time to work on it. I really, in the back of my mind, thought this was going to be the day that Andre Roberts broke.
Yeah.
Or took on. So there's a little bit of disappointment for me that we didn't take advantage of a poor special teams unit for the season and really just rub it in and make this a lot worse for Dallas.
Yeah, no, I thought there was definitely opportunity. There's definitely chances to be able to do a little bit extra. Again, Andre Roberts still looked pretty darn good.
Yeah,
he's still out there. He's averaging 27 yards per kick return. I think he's still leading the NFL with it to be able to do that. And we'll make sure that it's in good shape going forward. But he's an exciting player. And I made a tweet earlier, just kind of that some of the plays people don't really pay attention to, where other kick returners or punt returners would have let the ball bounce, would have fair caught it, and he gets it and gets an extra 6 or 7 yards. That doesn't seem like a big deal in the moment, but he does it so consistently that those things add up, those extra bits of yards. The fact that he very rarely doesn't get out past the 25-yard line, and that is consistently, he knows the timing, he knows the setup of the defense and the kick return. He had one today where he didn't, because they had it set up for him to sweep, kicking it from way on the right side, way around to the left, and they had a wall set up, and he did get his ankle clipped by one guy. But if that didn't happen, he had a huge return set up. And that's the kind of just heads up playmaking that we have there. And I'm glad that we have him here. I'm glad he's under contract for next year. He's a guy that's a net positive for this team, that I'm glad he's a piece of it.
And we don't have to see Micah Hyde back there returning.
Oh, thank the Lord.
Thank God.
just keep him safe, keep him in bubble wrap.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the awards part of the game. Part of our program here. I think that it's fun on a day like today where it's very, very debatable. So let's start on the negative side here. I think it's very, very easy.
This one's easy.
I think both of us have Steven Hauschka. It's not acceptable to miss those kicks. He's got to be better. And I don't know that I had anybody else even really in the discussion.
There was a couple penalties on Phillips, a couple penalties on Deion Dawkins that I was considering just because I hate penalties. But yeah, no, Steven Hauschka took it away with spades. He's got to be better. There's just nothing really to talk about. He's just got to do a better job at his job.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now on the positive side is where it really gets fun. I'll kick things off. I really came down to two players, two young players, two young guys that really showed out. I think that in many games, Ed Oliver deserved the Gruntled Award and deserved to be the player of the game. I thought that he was as close to that game-wrecking presence as anything I could wish for in this kind of setup. But I have to go with Josh Allen, and I think that Josh Allen had the best game of his career and looked fantastic. Didn't have any turnover quality caliber throws, looked great throwing the ball, looked great running the ball, really competitive, gutsy plays. It was everything you could want, and he was a slam dunk Gruntled for me.
This one was tough for me. From past experience, I don't love to go with the quarterback. They touch the ball more. They're going to make more plays. Josh Allen had his most fantastic, great game that I've ever seen so far in his young career. There's good reason to go with him. I wanted also Dable was in consideration for the Gruntled for me today. I thought Dable called, like you said, his best game. I think that he is very deserving of this award. I think us as fans, maybe deserving of this award. We're going to have a fantastic week. We earned this. We're going to be insufferable. That's fun. Ultimately, I have to give it to Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley went back to a place. He's made a lot of comments about the frustration he felt of not being wanted in Dallas, the coaching staff not using him the right way over the last couple of years, him having that frustration of, you brought it up in Twitter. He's played there his entire life. He is a Texas guy, and to come back there on the biggest stage in professional football, like you said, the more eyes on this stage than ever, for him to come back to his old team. I was ready to give it to him when he scored that touchdown, and then he continued to put up production. 6 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Cole Beasley, man, that is such a moment in sports. That guy must have been having goosebumps all down him, sitting on the sidelines after scoring a touchdown against his old team. That is the stuff that sports is all about. And I hope to see that type of continued production out of Cole Beasley. I've loved how he's produced over the last couple of weeks. Fantastic game for him. I'm so happy for him. What a moment for him and his family to go back and put up that kind of performance against his old team.
Well, and for anyone who didn't see it, the after game locker room speech was incredible.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm going to ruin a little bit for you.
That's okay.
They're waiting. Cole Beasley comes around the corner. They pour water and drinks all over him, pick him up and crowd surf him around the locker room. Then they put him down. McDermott gives him the game ball, and he talks to the team about how he wouldn't want to be anywhere else than right here with this locker room.
Too bad culture doesn't matter, huh?
Yeah, obviously. It's just made up nonsense. It's just all all the X's and O's. That's all that matters. It's unbelievable. I recommend everybody go see it. I'll retweet it here for everything. It's incredible to be able to see, and is exactly what this team means to everyone around here. And just shows you they all knew that there was no pretending that this wasn't a big game. And you touched on it, what I had mentioned earlier. For anybody who isn't aware, he grew up just outside of Dallas. He went to high school there. He went to Southern Methodist right outside of there. He was a walk-on to try to beg for a tryout as an undrafted free agent to make the team. He made the team, gutted it out, worked through all the UDFA contract BS, finally gets to the point where he was ready to get paid as a professional, and then they weren't ready to pay him. and he was absolutely heartbroken by that. That was his hometown favorite team that he had earned that paycheck from,
Yeah.
and they were ready to move on and go somewhere else. And that, I think he's happy to be here. I don't think he's upset that he's in Buffalo, but he wanted that paycheck to come from Dallas. He wanted to finish out his life there. And to be able to help him have a career game in a moment like this just shows how much they care about each other, and that they knew what this mattered for, and they weren't going to skew the game plan for it. But if two guys were open, I feel real confident which one Josh was throwing the ball to.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic day. And, to the whole culture thing, right after the game, Josh gets interviewed about his big day. And he just says, hey, we're not playing for all the things other people are saying about us. We're playing for each other, and we're playing because we love each other. And that goes back to when McDermott first got here. And you heard that phrase start to come up, and I never heard that in football before, where talking about people's life experiences and learning who these people were, and loving the guy next to you. And you saw it with the reaction after Cole Beasley's touchdown, how they felt about that moment for him, and understanding that. And that stuff matters to these guys, that everyone around them understands the moments that they're playing in.
No, absolutely. And I think it's exciting. And as we go to wind down here, I certainly want to take a moment. Today is Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for all of you guys listening and everything that we have grown as a community and as a group here at Cover One. And it's awesome, the amount of feedback that we get, the engagement we get in our Slack channel, the engagement we get in the chat on the show, the ideas we get for topics, all the different things that are going on. It's just incredible to be able to have those kind of people around us and engage with us. And I'm even thankful for you, Aaron, and for Eric, and the friendship that we've grown and built. And it's exciting to be able to be around people that care about something I care about just as much or more than I do. So just want to take a moment here to say how thankful I am for everybody who's taken the moment to listen to us and enjoy this, and hope that you enjoy what we put all our time and energy into here. Just want to say thank you, and take a moment on a day like today.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, especially about just all the people that support what we're doing, because if it was just you and I talking to two people, that's not fun. We don't keep doing it. But all the people that are excited and saying, hey, when you guys going on live, it keeps us going. It keeps it working, because it is a lot of work behind the scenes. And like you said, obviously thankful to you and Eric. You've been a huge addition to our team, a little over a year now. I think we started somewhere last year, and you've been a little over a year, and you've taken a lot of this podcast. And I'm thankful for that, because I was doing a lot of it by myself before you came on. So super thankful for that. And thankful to Eric Turner here for the opportunity to have a platform and to bring people together. Like he said today, he thanked everybody in the Slack channel of, considering all you guys friends. And I really do. I spend probably more time in the Slack channel than any other social media or any other environment that I'm in online. And I've grown to really enjoy all of you guys and everybody's sense of humor, and very thankful for that community that we've created here. And if you're not in it, go check out the cover1.net and reach out to us and get involved in this community, because it's a lot of fun and we appreciate everyone, and it's going to be a really enjoyable ride here. I think we're going to have some really fun football through December and January.
Absolutely. Anything else that the people can look forward to, or where can they find you and more of your enjoyable messages?
Yeah, there's nothing to look forward to from me, but if you want, you can find me at Aaron Quinn 716. I'm going to be retweeting every sad Jerry Jones, mad Jerry Jones thing coming up over the next week. I'm going to be super insufferable, really super petty. If you're into that kind of thing, come give me a follow. Join me in my retweeting frenzy that's about to be embark on over the next 10 days.
Yeah, you guys can find me fighting that same battle. I already wore out my retweet finger before the game started. I think I retweeted about 50 people saying how they were wrong about Josh Allen. So you can look forward to more goodness like that, really basking in the glory of this win. At Greg Thompson, GregTompsett. Come on over, have a lot of fun. Love engaging with Bills fans and being able to talk about this fun ride that we're on. We do have a little bit of a longer break here, so we'll be getting back together with a preview show for the Ravens there next week. Maybe do something fun this weekend here with the games. We'll see how schedules go and how things line up, but maybe do something here kind of projecting out the rest of the season, but we'll see how things are going. If you enjoy what we're doing, go ahead.
You're only down one. in our bets.
Ooh,
We didn't talk
yeah.
about our bets. You gained 3 points in the bets this week. It's a 50-49. It's basically, I think, under most polling circumstances, that's within the margin of error. So things are neck and neck, man. I just wanted to throw that out there. I was about to close that window and saw that. We didn't bring it up. Greg is within a 1 bet of taking the lead.
That's right. My charity of choice is going to be very, very excited.
Very excited with that. And
that's a fun idea here. We have gotten a couple good ideas in the chat. Bring those to us on Twitter. If you're listening to this show, give us an idea for a bet that we can do that you think would be, you need to make it tough. It has to be a middling decision that we can, not be sure who would be on which side of it, so it's worthwhile. But if you have a good one like that coming into the next game, the Ravens are going to be a tough game. So that's going to be a good one to have some difficult decisions on. We'll look forward to that. But yeah, glad I brought it back and at least make it entertaining down the stretch run here.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I enjoy when I see the little, hey, you guys should bet this. That means that it's working, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, guys, thank you for everything tonight. Enjoy this Bills win. Enjoy this Thanksgiving with your family and your friends. It's now on to the Christmas season, and we will enjoy that thoroughly as well. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.